Good morning. I want to go into what we discussed yesterday, the 5 levels of dress when it comes to tefillah that we find in Shulchan Aruch. The basic level of dress for Kiryat Shema is that a person has to have a separation between his heart and the Makom Erva. I mentioned this before. This is even the B'di'avad, the person should never say Kiryat Shema if there's not some sort of physical separation, a piece of cloth that goes around his waist, a belt, a gartel, we said, that's the idea behind it, to separate between his heart and the Makom Erva. However, that's only sufficient di'avad for Kiryat Shema. When it comes to tefillah, there's a higher standard of dress. And that is, as Rashi says, Masechet Berachot, the reason why that is because when we're saying tefillah, we're standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the Melech. And therefore, just to have a separation between our heart and the Makom Erva is not sufficient. Standing before the Melech Malchei HaMelachim, our dress has to reflect that also. Therefore, our chest must be covered for tefillah. Certainly lechatchila. We're not talking about the avad if somehow a person prayed or doesn't have that a shirt available, but lechatchila, a person must cover their chest. However, we find in Shulchan Aruch there's additional levels also. As we said, Maran said over here in Siman Kuf Nun Aleph that a person should not just have himself covered, his clothing should also be clean. It should not be dirty. Now that sounds hopefully for most adults simple enough, but a person that has a job which gets him dirty, he's a contractor, he's a worker, he's a laborer, he's a painter, he does things like that, not so easy. Therefore, Maran writes that really ideally a person should have a set of clothing designated for tefillah. Maran also writes, not everybody could do that. Not everybody could do that. So what we come now is that on the one hand, the person should have clothing separate for tefillah. Maran says, like the Bigdei Kuhuna, we're like Kohanim standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Avodah. We should have something separate, designated for the Avodah. Since not everybody could do that, it's kedai that a person should, and this is where the Minhag Yeshivot comes from. If a person just has a jacket, a person has some formal item that he can put on for tefillah, that is a way to fulfill this halakha in Shulchan Aruch, not to stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu with soiled clothing. On top of that, we find that Maran says a person should be mitkashet et atzmo, to wear begadim naim, nice clothing. Again, that's a higher level. And then we had the level of the, also brought in Shulchan Aruch, but also according to Taz, that tzaddikim and talmidei chamim would only have atifa. They would only stand in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in tefillah with themselves being wrapped. Their eyes would be covered, their heads would be covered as a sign of humility before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the higher level as well. Again, we don't have that except for during Shacharit. So again, just to review, Kiryat Shema has to be a separation between the heart and the Makom Erva. Tefillah, a person has to be covered, specifically starting with the chest. We're going to get into B'ezrat Hashem in the coming days, arms, feet, legs, what has to be covered. Beyond that, you should have designated clothing for tefillah. It should be nice if possible and not soiled. B'ezrat Hashem, we do this, we're going to enhance our tefillah experience.